I'm already losing my breath. Hey guys, it's Laura from Lora Tony. I am coming at you with a video about 5 things you might find challenging coming to Medellin, Colombia. This video was inspired by some recent events in my life. This past week, I had to have a doctor come visit our apartment because for the past 2 to 3 weeks, I've been experiencing a lot of shortness of breath. I thought maybe it was because I was tired. I thought it was the elevation. I thought I was just experiencing some anxiety. But no, the doctor pretty much told me that I'm having an allergic reaction to the pollution, which is causing this shortness of breath. I looked it up and I think it's like asthma allergy or allergic asthma or something like that. So for the first time in my life, I am 31 years old, I was prescribed inhalers, 2 inhalers. I have this one here, salbutamol, which is taken twice a day, and this one for emergencies. Yeah, it was crazy to think that I'm having like these kind of asthma symptoms and having to take pumps. So I wanted to share this video with you guys, just sort of some things that you might experience, you know, being here. Before we do get started, I would really appreciate if you take the time to subscribe to our channel. We do post about our everyday life while we're traveling in various countries. We have a backlog of different travel related contacts / working from home. So if you're interested in that, please make sure to subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. The first thing that you might experience as a challenge here is pollution. As I had said earlier, I now have to use an inhaler because we live in the most populated neighborhood in Medellin. Can you believe it? We are in the El Velódromo barrio, which is right above Laureles and next to Estadio. Apparently, because this area is flat, the pollution just sort of settles and stays where we are. And we live in an apartment building. It's very nice, we love it, but it is on a busy street. Opening windows here is quite common. We have no central air, we live with fans. You know, we crack the window open. It's just like a normal thing here. So I think because there is already a lot of pollution and because we live on a busy street, there's just a lot of pollution that I'm exposed to on a more regular basis, which is causing me to have some breathing issues. So that's one thing to consider, choosing where you want to live. But if you want to live here near Laureles, know that it is very polluted and the air quality is not great. My doctor actually recommended that we leave immediately from this area and to move further out of the city, higher up on the mountains where there's fresh air. I know that it is the pollution that's triggering this breathing issues because last week Tony and I went to a little town or pueblo called Jardín, and we were there for 2 nights, and the whole time we were there I was symptom free. We went hiking, we were walking a lot, we were just out and about, and the air quality there is amazing. It's not as polluted, there's a lot of greenery there, so I was able to just be without having these symptoms that I'm having here in Medellin. When you do plan your trip here, I would say to avoid the summer months, which apparently is February or January through May, which is pretty much the whole time that we'll be here, because this is when there's not as much wind or rain to help sort of move and circulate the pollution from the city. Yeah, our doctor said that this is the most polluted time of the year. So we didn't know that. And yeah, and I didn't expect to have this kind of reaction when moving here, but if you are someone who has underlying issues or sensitivity to pollution, I would either recommend either coming here at another time of the year or living somewhere higher up in the city to be away from the pollution. Another thing that would be challenging for some people is language. Obviously, Colombia is a Spanish-speaking country. It's not as touristy as some other Spanish-speaking countries such as Mexico or Costa Rica, even Nicaragua. I encountered more people there who spoke English. Here in Medellin, there are a lot of locals who can speak some English, but it would be recommended if you can pick up some words at least. I know for Tony it's been challenging when he has to go out by himself because people just speak Spanish to you. They see you, even though they can tell you're a foreigner, they're going to speak Spanish to you. They're not going to hesitate and try to adapt to you. You need to adapt to your environment, and you would think that that's like a common sense thing, but I do get surprised when I see tourists who don't really understand that English is not well spoken in a lot of places, and that they expect people to cater to them. And yeah, you will find that in a more touristy area like in El Poblado, where people expect all the foreigners or expats or even people on vacation to go to that area specifically. There you'll see a lot more English signs and you'll encounter more English speaking people. But if you want to live outside of that area, it will be a lot more challenging to communicate if you don't know Spanish. So that is something I definitely recommend. Pick up some key terms: food, drinks, where certain places are, like bathroom, supermarket, corner store. Just figure out some of those names and it will make your life a lot easier. This next one ties into pollution, and that is traffic. In our experience, since we don't commute, traffic is not such a big deal to us, but it does create a lot of noise. It creates a lot of pollution, and if we take a day trip or a weekend trip out, coming back into the city is a nightmare. One weekend we went to San Rafael on a day trip, and when we came back, what was supposed to be a 3-hour bus ride turned into like a 5 to almost 6-hour bus ride, because the infrastructure in Colombia seems to be quite limited as far as it comes to roads, because this part of the country at least is full of mountains. So you're just winding through mountains, and these highways are just one way going each way. So it's quite interesting to be on a bus and you'll see people walking on the highway, or you'll see people on bicycles or on motorbikes, and then like this huge bus just winding its way through the mountains. Yeah, so that's one thing to consider, is to sort of broaden your expectation of like how fast things should move, and just sort of know that when you come here that the infrastructure is not so broad, that there is wide roads to accommodate lots of travelers on the road. All right, another thing that you might find challenging here that kind of drove us crazy when we first got here is the noise. It is a city, but it's just noisy. Like, we've been to cities before and it's not as noisy, but here's pretty noisy with the motorbikes and especially vendors. So this is the first time I've seen this. Imagine this. There's vendors pushing their fruit or any kind of wares that they have, and the vendors have these speaker systems with microphones, and they just go through the neighborhoods, especially in El Velódromo, Laureles, Estadio, walking around just advertising loudly on the speaker what they have. And I hear for tamales, for fruit, and also for some like electronic goods too, just random stuff. So yeah, that could be quite jarring when you first come here. Now we're used to it and it doesn't bother us. We also have a fan We have 2 fans in each room that we're in, and it creates a white noise, and it like helps kind of neutralize the noises that we hear outside. This next one might not come as a shock to many people. Another thing you might find challenging is the food. Now, recently we have been finding some local places that have some better food. There's like an asado place, which is like grilled meats. It's not a place, it's actually like a little cart that's on the corner of this major highway that we're near, and they sell steak, chicken, and sausage, pork sausage, like at various prices. We got chicken yesterday, it was only 8,000. So cheap, and it's like a big piece. We also found a little restaurant that has menu del dia, and we found that their fish and coconut rice is the bomb. So yes, there are some bits and pieces of Colombian food that are really delicious, but I've noticed that the food here is very plain and simple, not too spicy, not too salty, just very balanced, and a variety of food, to get your your daily nutrition intake. So I think it's very healthy, but is it tasty, and like, do I want to have it every day? No, not really. So the first 3 weeks here, I was very food sad. And if you don't know what food sad is, it means that you're just thinking of all the food that you used to have, and you're not having it anymore because you can't find it. That's what food sad is. I just made that up. Yes, so I was really food sad, and luckily for us, there is a Korean restaurant like 5-minute walk from us called Korea House, and it's amazing, and we're there like twice a week because I love Asian food. I'm not really into Latin food, but now that we have found our certain spots, it's a good balance. So yes, you might find Colombian food to be challenging, not very flavorful. So what I do recommend is to find those few restaurants that is not Colombian food, whether it be pizza, hamburgers, Korean food. There are some sushi restaurants, there are some Peruvian restaurants here. Whatever floats your boat, I would recommend you trying to find the best ones and go to those at maybe once a week in order to get those cravings satisfied. The last thing I want to talk about, which is also probably pretty obvious to viewers watching this, is the general level of safety and just the sense of ease or uneasiness you might experience. Before we came here, what I like to do is I like to join Facebook groups, and yeah, that kind of shows my age because I still use Facebook. It's very useful though, all right, you young 20 peoples, Facebook's still very useful. So yeah, I like to join these Facebook groups of people who are living in the area. So here I am part of the Expat Women of Medellin group. Very useful, it's very civil. You'll find that a lot of these expat groups, wherever you go in the world, are pretty gross because there's a lot of gross men out there and just make the internet's unpleasant. Anyways, I digress. So yeah, I like to be part of these Facebook groups to see just like how it is to be there, what people are asking, what to expect. And what I sensed in the group is just like this level of uneasiness. There's this saying called no da papaya, which means like don't make yourself a target, don't put yourself in danger, like pretty much just like, try not to get robbed. And I was just reading like story after story of people getting their phones snatched in a taxi. Like, how crazy is that? The general feeling I had before coming to Colombia was one of anxiety. This is the first time in our travels that I experienced this sort of anxiety, just sort of envisioning all the bad things that could happen, which is not a good practice to have, but I do like to be realistic and sort of set up my brain, my emotions, that something like this could happen. It's a thing. It's a thing in this city that something bad can happen, like theft. Or like theft. Pretty much theft is like the #1 concern I have here. And while it's not a nice feeling, I think it is an important practice to do to have some sense of fear when you go to a place that does have a reputation for not being that safe. So I had a couple of sleepless nights before we came here, just thinking of what could go wrong. Thankfully, maybe it's the area we live in, maybe it's just because we don't go out that often, and we do take taxis, you know, to a lot of places. We haven't experienced stuff like that. We are pretty vigilant, like I hold my bag tightly, we have our phones away, and you know, we're not just like flaunting stuff. So I think we are pretty conscious of like how we are, but it is a challenge because you're not as carefree to sort of absorb where you are. I know when you travel, you should always have a sense of fear and, you know, anticipation for things that could go wrong. But this to me was like at another level. And that's because last year we visited 8 countries and multiple cities in Southeast Asia. And not once did I feel threatened or uneasy about where we were. And yeah, so this was something that was challenging for me, and it could be challenging for you coming here. Just have some foresight and be mindful and practice those mindful habits before you come here. That way you're ready to be here and be on guard. All right, guys, so those are the 5 challenges that I wanted to talk to you that we've experienced while being here in Medellin. I don't want to give this sense that it's all bad here. Well, there are some things we've experienced here that have been wonderful. The people here are so nice, so nice. I've never once felt like I was going to be scammed at all. We do plan to make a follow-up video of 5 things that we find interesting, you know, on a more positive note while being here in Medellin. So look out for that in the future. Anyways, I hope you found this useful. Not everyone's going to have the same experience. This is just based on what we've been through. I hope it could be helpful when you plan your trip to Medellin or when you just go traveling in general. All right, guys, that is the end of our video. Let me know what you think of this video down below in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate it. #road to 1000. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.